Mr. Topaz takes a walk. Mr. Topaz is a cat who takes a walk, and he does a lot of other things to curb his anger. Let's learn about all these things that children too can do now to curb their own anger throughout their whole life. Mr. Topaz went for a walk because he wasn't allowed to talk. Mr. Topaz talked too much, and his friend Miss Tinky said be quiet and such. Mr. Topaz got real mad, and he wanted to hit Miss Tinky real bad. But angry Topaz had a hunch. It's better to walk than throw a punch. It's better to walk than throw a punch. So he walked about. He walked his anger out. Then he marched about. He marched his anger out. Then he stomped about. He stomped his anger out. And then he danced about. He danced his anger out. Mr. Topaz does a lot of these things, and the children I read to also do them with him. In this way, he becomes a role model for kids. We get up and we walk, we march, we stomp, we even dance. And by the time they've gotten all this out of their system, they're ready to sit back down and listen to the rest of the steps that are effective at curbing anger. Mr. Topaz thought anger's just no fun, so he counted to 1. Mr. Topaz will count to 10 by the time we're done with the story. And with each successive number, there's some self-reflection that Mr. Topaz does. He begins by thinking, I'm not mad at you, Miss Tinky. Maybe I'm really mad at me. He took a deep breath and counted to 4. Mr. Topaz thought I should breathe more, and you know we should too. And so I'll tell the children, let's take a nice deep breath now, and this is a place where you can sit with your child and you can practice this breathing technique, and you can call upon this technique anytime you need it. I once saw one of my clients actually doing this. She was about 2.5 years old. She started into the little terrible 2 independence fits, and saw her mother saying, now just take a breath. And she looked just like Mr. Topaz when she took it. It was quite a hoot. But the best news of all, she was more like this in an instant. Just what one breath can do. It's amazing. And how often we forget to breathe. By the time Mr. Topaz counted to 6, he said, this is a problem I can fix. So he counted to 7. I know, I'll get help from heaven. He counted to 8, but Mr. Topaz had to wait. And this is where we'll practice waiting. Until I can turn the page. And he counted to 9 for the answer that would make his friend feel fine. He counted to 10. He said, thanks for the help, and started talking again. The next thing Mr. Topaz had to say was, sorry, Miss Tinky, let's just play. This is a natural place in the story where you could stop, you could take a break, you can ask the child to make a choice. Child, would you like to read some more, or would you like to play something right now? By now they've learned enough anger management techniques that you really don't need to finish the story if they don't want to. I find it very, very encouraging that every child I have asked has said, I want to finish the story. So we do. The story wraps up with Miss Tinky and Mr. Topaz playing drums on improvised drum barrels and sticks. And finally wrapping it up with it helps to make music when you're mad at a friend, and it's a good way to bring a fight to an end. You may have noticed some rhythm and rhyme as I read this. Is this something that you feel you can do? Well, I know it's something you can do. If you can count to 4, you can do this. If you can read along where the paws in the print, this is paw prints, that is, they'll guide you to beat 1 every time. So if you count with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can begin to feel this. Mr. Topaz went for a walk because he wasn't allowed to talk. You can kind of feel that beat 1 right where those paw prints are in the text. You don't have to do this in rhythm. You can sit and read this as a simple child's book, which makes it even just as enjoyable. And your 3-year-old will ask you to read this 4 times minimum. At least that's what I'm hearing now. You can get Mr. Topaz in perfect bound. You can find him on Facebook and go directly to my e-storefront. You can also find him on spiral bound if you like to do some hands-free. For the more active therapist, child, or parent, or teacher, Mr. Topaz comes in spiral bound books at lulu.com. Just search on Mr. Topaz. Well, I hope you have a lot of fun with Mr. Topaz. He's a great role model. More than that, he was my pet and inspiration to this story and other stories that you'll also find on Facebook and at lulu.com. Have a good day, and thanks for tuning in.